Okay, so today we're going to deep dive into, a really dark case.
Absolutely.
The Meerut murder mystery, a wife's deadly affair. And just to kind of set this up for anybody who's listening, we're working from an outline of a podcast episode.
Right.
And it details a really gruesome murder of this merchant Navy officer named
Right.
Saurabh in Meerut, India,
Uh-huh.
by his wife, Muskan, and her lover, Sahil Shukla.
Right.
So, I mean, right off the bat, like, talk about betrayal, right?
Oh, yeah. A huge betrayal right there at the heart of it. And I think what makes this case so disturbing and fascinating in a way is that Saurabh, he's a decorated officer coming back home,
Yeah.
celebrating his wife's birthday,
Right.
celebrating with his daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about that homecoming
Yeah.
versus the reality
Yeah.
of what awaited him. It's really horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, and at the center of it all is Muskan, his wife, and she's having this secret relationship with Sahil. And not only that, but the podcast outline we're working from suggests that Sahil may have actually introduced her to drugs.
Right. And so we've got this betrayal, like I said, at the heart of it. And then we've got potentially another layer of him introducing her to drugs.
Right. And when you think about it, I mean, the outline then goes on to lay out this really chilling detail.
Yeah.
There was a first attempt to drug Saurabh
Right.
on Muskan's birthday, February 25th, 2025,
Uh-huh.
but it failed.
It did.
What does that tell us?
I mean, doesn't that just point to like a very calculated intent? This wasn't some kind of like spontaneous crime of passion or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was deliberate. They had a plan in motion. The failure didn't deter them. In fact, it seemed to lead to an even more brutal second attempt.
Right.
In March of 2025, where Saurabh was not only drugged, but then stabbed to death.
Yeah.
By both Muskan and Sahil.
And from there, it just gets even more grim. They dismember his body and they hid it encased in cement inside of a blue drum in their home.
In their home.
In their home.
I mean, just trying to fathom that level of like brutality is...
I think what I find almost even more unsettling than the act. Brutality of the act itself is what they did next.
Right.
Instead of immediately trying to,
Yeah.
Disappear or dispose of the evidence.
Right.
They went on vacation. They went to Manali, to Seoul, and Shimla.
It's like this bizarre juxtaposition, right? Like you just committed this horrific act, and then you're trying to project this sense of normalcy.
Yeah, what could explain that? I mean, maybe. Just a complete disconnect from reality.
Yeah.
Maybe this desperate attempt to maintain a semblance of an ordinary life while carrying this, unimaginable guilt. It's just wild.
And ultimately, as you might imagine, the crime was discovered. They were arrested. And the outline notes that. The reaction was pretty intense. I mean, Muskan's parents actually disowned her.
And there was this huge outpouring of anger from the public.
Yeah. I think that just speaks to the the level of shock that a crime like this elicits, especially when it involves such intimate betrayal.
Yeah.
I mean, it really speaks to our, those deep societal values around family and trust.
Yeah, for sure. So the outline, points to a few possible motives.
Okay.
Love or obsession, the influence of drugs.
Right.
And maybe even financial gain. I don't know. What do you make of that, given the level of planning involved?
Yeah. I mean, I think the fact that they had this premeditation, that first attempt that failed,
right?
It seems like it goes a little bit deeper than just,
a
spur of the moment, crime of passion.
Right.
I mean, who knows? Maybe it's a combination of factors.
Right.
But yeah, it definitely hints at something more, deeply rooted than just a sudden outburst or anything.
So I guess taking it all in this deep dive into the Meerut murder mystery really paints this stark picture of betrayal and violence within, this seemingly normal domestic setting. It really does make you think about the things that might be hidden beneath the surface.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This case really leaves us with this troubling question. What does this case reveal about the human capacity for deception and the potential for this kind of extreme violence to erupt from even the closest relationships.
Right.
I think it serves as this really stark reminder of the fragility of trust and the darkest. That can sometimes lurk, right beneath the surface of what seems like, a totally normal life.
Yeah. Really scary stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was a deep dive into the Meerut murder mystery. Be sure to check out our next episode, where we'll be tackling
Yes.
another fascinating case. Until then, stay safe out there